The Honourable David Parker.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Finance. Given that he disagrees with the advice of the Treasury on the Tiwai smelter, who advised it should not be subsidised by taxpayers because, quotes, it would result in a significant transfer of value from New Zealanders to Pacific, Aluminium and Rio Tinto shareholders, does he then agree with the New Zealand Herald that the $30 million taxpayer subsidy paid to the Rio Tinto-owned smelter is, quotes, an abject piece of short-sighted thinking? If not, why not?
Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Mr Speaker, on behalf of the Minister of Finance, no, I don't agree with the premise of that essay. Treasury advised that there is no economic rationale for a long-term government subsidy for the Tiwai Point smelter. Treasury further advised there would be a significant transition cost in the event of any shutdown of the smelter, especially to the Southland economy and the wider electricity market. The government agrees with that advice. In regard to the particular Treasury comment quoted by the member, it was made in July 2012, and in relation to the renegotiation of the long-term electricity price. At that time, Rio asked for assistance worth hundreds of millions of dollars. The government agreed with Treasury's advice against a long-term subsidy and rejected the proposal. As to the second part of that question, the government had to make a decision. It was not a straightforward decision, but the government recognised the smelter's role in the stability of the New Zealand electricity market and the value of certainty for 800 smelter workers and the wider Southland economy, and chose to make a one-off payment to help close the negotiations. I look forward to the member maintaining that position on his next visit to Southland.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, the Honourable David Parker.
If he disagrees with the New Zealand Herald that the $30 million taxpayer subsidy to Rio Tinto is an abject piece of short-sighted thinking, does he agree with the New Zealand Herald that the effective subsidy given to Chorus through the government's intervention over broadband pricing is, quotes, unfair to consumers and, quotes, dangerous for the economy?
Mr Speaker, on behalf of the Minister of Finance, no, I don't. And of course, the reality is with editorial writers is that although they are entitled, of course, to their views, they don't actually have to live with the decisions, and the government does have to live with its decisions, and it believes it made the right decision. But it's interesting, Mr Speaker, that the member raises two issues in relation to interventions in the New Zealand economy, and I think it's valid of him to raise those. But you think about them for a second. Tiwai Point, we're talking about 800 jobs. The UFB, we're talking about 2,000 jobs. They also hate the convention centre, which is another 1,000 jobs. And their new leader was out today criticising the Snapper decision, which is another 1,200 jobs. That's 5,000 jobs they want to nail in 2 days. At this rate, it'll be 75,000.
Order.
Supplementary.
Order. Supplementary question. Order. Supplementary question, the Honourable David Parker.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Why should broadband customers who can't get fibre installed or can't afford to connect to it effectively subsidise Chorus through higher copper broadband prices than recommended by the Commerce Commission?
Honourable Stephen Joyce.
On behalf of the Minister of Finance, that's simply incorrect. The reality is nobody is proposing to put up copper prices. The question is what's the appropriate way for valuing the value of the network for which prices are determined. And there are different views, as there always are in this situation, particularly between the infrastructure providers on the one hand and the retailers on the other hand. And the member wants to be careful he just doesn't get sucked into one side of the debate.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Honourable David Parker.
Does he now agree with the comments made by the Herald columnist Chris Barton in 2011 that the then ICT Minister Stephen Joyce, quotes, has missed a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity in designing the UFB scheme, and that, quotes, over the next 8.5 years, most of the country is going to get fairly average broadband, and that Chorus, quotes, carries so much baggage that it will inevitably get bogged down?
Honourable
Mr Speaker, on behalf of the Minister of Finance, no. And with the greatest respect to Mr Barton, I have never seen a worse analysis of broadband in New Zealand, as in that one article which I recall well from the Minister of Communications and ICT showing it to me back in 2011, Mr Speaker. The reality of it is simply this, that the government has actually done a very, very good deal with the ultra-fast broadband. If you compare it with the Australian situation, which the new government there is now having to unravel, this government is absolutely confident in its position and is delivering ultra-fast broadband to New Zealanders, along with at least 2,000 jobs in delivering that program.
Supplementary question, the Honourable David Parker.
Why is it when members of the public can't afford to pay their power bill, it gets cut off, but when those with the money, the power and the connections like Rio Tinto don't want to pay their bill, they get a discount and a $30 million corporate welfare subsidy?
Honourable order.
Well, Mr
Honourable
Speaker,
Stephen Joyce.
on behalf of the Minister of Finance, the member makes a mistake. He talks about it as if it's corporate welfare, but the reality is it's about jobs. And jobs in Southland, jobs on the UFB, jobs on the Convention Centre and jobs in the snapper fishery. Now, if the member wants to keep going down the path he's on, I encourage him to do so, because it'll be disastrous for the Labour Party.
Order. Order. Supplementary question, Dennis O'Rourke.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Why did the government's largesse with the Tiwai Point smelter not extend to saving New Zealand-owned productive capacity in Dunedin's hillside workshops?
Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Well, Mr Speaker, on behalf of the Minister of Finance, the difficulty in relation to Hillside was there was no long-term future for that organisation. Whereas for Tiwai Point, the two companies have come to an agreement which allows for the medium to long-term future of the smelter. Now, nobody can say forever, but the reality is that's the situation. And the government has to make judgments on those every day, and this government is comfortable with the decisions it's had to make.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, the Honourable David Parker.
Has the Minister of Finance received any criticism from the Minister of Economic Development of the Tiwai Point deal, or any acknowledgement that that minister got it wrong in the 2011 UFB deal? And if not, is it because Mr Fixit still can't see the error of his ways, or is it because he's a flathead?
The Honourable Stephen Joyce can answer any of a number of supplementary questions.
Mr Speaker, on behalf of the Minister of Finance, I don't think the Minister of Economic Development has a flat head. I mean, you could criticise him on many levels, but I don't think you could suggest he has a flat head, Mr Speaker. Look, the reality is simply this. This government, in relation to the UFB, has put together a very good deal for New Zealand. The debate here is simply between the ISPs on the one hand, who are funded and organised by an interesting gentleman with the Labour Party seems to have recently fallen in love with, and on the other hand, the infrastructure provider. We will land on a price, Mr Speaker, through this process which works for everyone and will involve in reductions in retail prices for consumers, and we will deliver the UFB, which the Labour opposition would never have done.
Mr Speaker.
Point of order, the Honourable David.
I seek leave to table the Vodafone submission in response to the government's intervention proposal, which shows that consumers pay more than was recommended by the Commerce Commission.
I just need to check of its availability. Is it freely available to members?
Well, I've got a copy, sir.
So it's freely available. We're not wasting any further time. Question number 4, Materia Ture.
Tēnā koe, Mr Speaker, tēnā koutou te whare. My question is to the Minister of Education